Hi everybody, it's me, Miss Jessica Lahore, and for today's Jess Talk, we are going to be talking about hookups. Everything hookup central and more. This is an 18 plus episode. Now, before we get into all the hookup nature that you're ready to hear about, you know the drill. Hook up by subscribing with my channel, hook up with me by hitting the bell for notifications, and hook up with me by following us on all streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you can find us, we are there. Okay, hookups, let's get into it.
Attention the whore, attention the whore, attention the whore, attention. Here I am walking down the street, seeing all the boys trying to take a peek. Shorts pulled up, a chest out right. Come on, boys, just take a bite. Look but don't touch, spin it round and round. Crazy.
Okay, so this episode is all about hookups and hookup culture. Now, mind you, let's just start from the beginning. My name is Jessica Lahore. Part of the reason that I started with the Lahore name is that I'm a super sex positive person. I'm a super body positive person. And I truly believe that you can do what you want as many times as you want it with as many people as you want, as long as you are both consensual. All parties are consensual. Everyone is being safe and you're enjoying yourself, because ultimately hookups and sex should be enjoyable. That is my bottom standard. Okay. Bottom standard. So Lahore came essentially because I'm a super sex positive person, like I talked about, but I was a big hoe. Okay. I love my hookups. I loved my hookup apps. I loved getting with people, and I kind of still do, but there's such a huge disconnect from original whore to current whore. Okay. And I use whore and slut very positively in this Jess Talk. So let's start from the beginning. Hookups were very different for me when I was originally developing my sexual identity. A lot of it was because I was trying to compensate for the lack of love that I had for myself. A lot of the things that I hated about myself, from my body to the way I looked to being not skinny enough, or not having the right color eyes, or not feeling attractive to people, or being called cute all the time but not being sexy. So hookups for me at the time were a way to compensate for a lot of the voided energy that I wasn't getting, that I now feel like I confidently have as an adult. This is like early 20s, late teens, like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That kind of time frame was a very rough generation of my experience. That sounds weird to say. A very rough timestamp of my era of my experience. There we go. Usually when I was hooking up with people, it came with a lot of negative, self-deprecating conversation that led up to the hookup. So they would give me a compliment, but I'd shut them down. And let me tell you, if you are not confident when it comes to sex, and this took me so long to learn, and I'm still struggling with this to this day, it makes sex unenjoyable for both parties. If you hear me say that I hate myself, that I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I don't, all of this stuff, but but I still want to fuck, I can tell you right now that it's not going to be enjoyable for either party. You have to go into it believing that this hookup is going to be at least decent. And not all hookups are great, but the idea is that you're confident enough to go through with it, right? And you're coherent enough to go through with it. So a lot of the things that I was doing is not only being self-deprecating and being like, oh, you need to keep the lights off, you can't look at me naked, don't touch me here, stuff like that, which is a huge turnoff if you're not developing a personal relationship with that person. A lot of the things that I had to do on top of being self-deprecating were drinking heavily to get through the hookup, get through that fear of not liking myself. I liked myself more if I was drunk, and that made things easier to hook up with other people. However, hooking up is something that I feel like a lot of folks do, and it's something that you should embrace throughout your life if that is something that you would like to experiment with. There are so many apps out there, and granted, I haven't been on dating apps or hookup apps in a long time, from Grindr, Scruff, Hornet, Boy Ahoy, and then those are just to name a few of them that you would use to find folks. Craigslist, even back in the day, to find folks to hook up with. I personally struggle, and I have my entire life, that I need to have some notion that you are even the tiniest bit of a decent human before I can hook up with you. You could be the sexiest bitch in the entire world. You could have the most beautiful body, most beautiful, delicious looking dick. However, I need to have the minimalist conversation with you in order to go through with this hookup. That is how I have always been. And I don't know why. I've never been able to shake that. I know so many people that are like, oh yeah, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., I've hooked up with 6 people. I know nothing about them. And part of me is like, wow, that sounds really fucking exciting. Like, it's hot to think about. It's kind of like the before you come thoughts. You're like, oh yeah, that's so hot. And then you come, you're like, oh, what just happened? What am I doing? The post ejaculation clarity is what we call it. And it sounds really enticing, but then all I'm sitting there is thinking about, like, well, I didn't even get to know their name. Maybe they were a Trump supporter. Maybe they had a particular STD that we just didn't have a conversation about beforehand. And I'm not saying to be anti-STD or STI, like, conversational. Like, if somebody is HIV positive, I'm not saying, like, I would not hook up with them, but not to have the conversation first, I think is harder for me. And that's like any STD. Like, if you find out later you have chlamydia and then you're like, well, it's one of these 8 people. Yes, chlamydia is curable. I've had chlamydia, I've had gonorrhea, things like that happen. But there are also STDs and STIs that if you're not prepared for, if you're not on PrEP, which wasn't around 10 years ago or is accessible 10 years ago, then those conversations were important at the time. And it's not that I wouldn't hook up with folks, but for me, I wanted to make sure that, you know, like, I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page kind of thing before going into this. I love learning about people's kinks rather than just like showing up and being like, well, I'm going to pick and decide what I think you enjoy in the bedroom, or hope that you understand what I enjoy. I love talking about those things. What turns you on? Like, having those conversations. What gets you off? What are your no-nos? What things turn you completely off in the bedroom? Because that way, when I go to the hookup, I know, again, that baseline information about you, and I can enjoy it more. Sex should be enjoyable, okay? I think that some of my funniest hookup stories are as followed. And let me just tell you a couple of them. One time, and I think he's married now. I've not talked to him in years and years and years and years. I was really crushing on this guy. And we played Super Smash Brothers drinking game. We went out together. We played Super Smash Brothers. Every time you died, you took a shot. We got really drunk. We went to the bedroom. And we're starting to get hot and bothered. And I'm very inexperienced, I believe, at this point in my sexual career. And we're like, I'm getting pounded. I'm getting like fucked hard from the back. And I'm not like moaning. I'm screaming bloody murder. But I'm enjoying it. But the noises coming out of my body were like, ah! Ah! Like I was getting killed in a horror movie. Like I was the person getting stabbed 8 times. And he even would stop a couple of times and be like, are you okay? I'm like, yes, keep going. Yes. But it sounded like he was like destroying my body. Mind you, his roommates were there as well. Then we both come. It's great. But when I come, what did I do? I did the classic, like you roll over, like, oh, it felt good. But I start maniacally laughing, like evil clown status, like maniacally laughing about finishing, which is not attractive either. At that point, I pass out. I don't know what happens with him. I think he passes out as well. I wake up to find a note.
They wrote the note. You tell.
That says, had a great time. Talk to you soon. Here's some Chiba Hut. And I never heard from him again. So that was one particular hookup story. There was another hookup story where I literally got in the elevator with the person and I looked at him and I was like, very blunt. I was very sober too. And I was like, you don't look anything like your profile picture. I think I'm going to go home. And he got off the elevator. I went back down and I went home. Because like that to me is like lying to me. Don't lie to me. Just send me a regular photo of what you currently look like, or say, hey, this is an older photo. I do look a little bit different. Like, give me some kind of heads up. That's what I'm saying. The heads up conversation. There have been a couple of hookups where, mama's topping and bitch is a little shitty kitty.
It's chocolate.
And when you're hooking up with somebody that you don't know and poop is involved, I think it's different than if you're having sex with somebody that you're dating or in a relationship and poop is involved. When you're in a relationship and poop's involved, you're like, oh, like, let's go to the shower. Let's put a towel down. Like, shit happens. Like, I get it. It's not that embarrassing. But if you're hooking up and there's like a little bit of poop, you're like, okay, this is expected. Like, okay, like it happens. Shit happens. I'm obviously putting it in, but let's go to the shower and like clean off together, but still keep it hot. This is still a sexy moment. But when it's like floodgates, like you shit everywhere, what do you do from that? What do I do in these cases? I just wipe, thank you very much, and walk away. Another hookup experience that was like really good. So like I obviously have some horror story hookup experiences. Some really good hookup experiences was one time I was a student at a conference, and one of the other schools, what is that? Not counselors.
Like mentors?
No, mentor's a good word, but more like a supervisor. He was the supervisor for one of the other schools, and very attractive, great dick. I won't say his name in case he exists in the world or whatever and whatnot. I don't want him to know that I still like remember this great moment. But he had one of those dicks, like, when it sticks and no matter where you're being thrown around, it never comes out. It's like you just spin around and wherever he feels like placing you. We went on a little road trip, and this is very bad because both of us could have gotten in significant trouble. Student supervisor, not supposed to fuck. But I was not quiet either. I'm very loud. So obviously everybody where we're staying at this hotel heard and then watched me come out as I'm like all frazzled and whatnot. But in the hotel, in the movies where they like destroy a hotel room because they're fucking, they throw things around. That's how that was. And that never has happened to me before. Curtains were broken down and things were knocked off tables. And like I said, in the whole time, his dick never left my butt. The entire time. Very memorable hookup experience. There's another hookup experience where I felt like he was an older gentleman, which I don't mind if they're older gentlemen. But I felt like he just wanted me to lay there. Like I laid on my stomach like this, like a reverse starfish, like this. And he just fucked me. That's it. It was good, but it wasn't great. I just laid there. He didn't want me to flip over. He didn't want to do anything. He just wanted me to keep my legs tight, a little extra friction, and he just kept fucking me. And then he finished, and when he was done, he said, thank you. And I didn't finish, and I went home. I feel like hookups when I was younger were so much easier than as an adult. Now I'm much more coherent and like knowledgeable about like what I like, what I don't like, what I'm willing to put up with and what I'm not willing to put up with. And I think that's where, again, that connection comes into play. I believe that hookups now are more difficult because the people that want to hook up are younger, and I want people more around my age, or like I said, there has to be a mental connection of some kind. So yeah, like I said, 18 to 22, a lot of sex, a lot of hooking up, like random people, JESS message on Grindr, stuff like that. Then I became kind of relationship bound for quite a while, relationship for 5 years. And then my first hookup out of my relationship was at Washington Park in a car, didn't know his name, and now he's my boyfriend. Yep, that's how that happened. Literally threw me around in the vehicle, ass prints on the steamy, like very, what's it called? Very Titanic, where the handprint is like scraped down, but a booty cheeks. Took his load and didn't know his name. and then later messaged him. And then I was like, we're going to be fuck buddies. We're just going to be friends with benefits. But no, I was drunk when I said this. That's why I'm saying it this way. Friends with benefits. We're never, ever going to get in a relationship. And now we're like going on into this for quite some time now. We're together. We're pretty committed to each other. It's great. So hookups can be beneficial to meeting your partner. Sometimes it just matches up. I feel like people are like, I understand the idea of having standards and being picky, but sometimes the way that folks describe what they want when it comes to partners ends up being really toxic and self-detrimental. If you're somebody that already struggles with insecurities, already struggles with being hard on their body or hard on themselves, having somebody blatantly say that you're ugly, fat, unattractive, not their type, whatever the reason is kind of hard. That rejection piece is really difficult, especially because when you're over app, it's really easy to be that forward and you're not really thinking about the emotions or the feelings of the other person, or even sometimes what people put in their bios on those hookup apps are crazy. I think that more folks should explore the idea of hooking up with people, with the caveat that they walk away learning something new. I know that sounds so far-fetched, but I truly believe that having sex with a variety of people is the idea to break down, again, your likes, your dislikes, the things that turn you on, things that turn you off, like I've said earlier. But as you're exploring, you're also developing your confidence in that. I love talking about sex with my friends. I ask my friends very much about their sex lives just as much as I love talking about my sex lives. I have some friends that are very much think it's weird and they don't enjoy it. And I have some friends that we go into every nitty gritty, smelly, dirty, spitty, cummy detail. And I love it. I love it. It really helps me kind of embrace that sex positivity that I like, but it reminds me that as I'm aging, that I'm not dried up and dead. Like, I'm still very much capable of being a sexy, hot human. And mind you, my journey has been very much like this. In my early 20s and before I was 20, hated myself, didn't like my body, depressed, angry, whatever. Then I have my middle 20s where I was still angry, depressed, but I was in a relationship. So I didn't necessarily need to look for that satisfaction because I wasn't looking for that, but I still didn't like myself, okay? I didn't like where I was at, and I wasn't stereotypically or societally considered attractive. That was my opinions, my mentalness, my mental stability wasn't attractive, my body wasn't attractive in my mind, in my perception. Now we're at my late 20s and I'm beginning my 30s. I'm 30 years old. So I'd say like middle of 27, 28-ish, 29 for sure, and now 30. I'm feeling my most confident, most sexual power. And that comes with wanting to explore that sexual power, that idea of feeling sexy, hearing that people think that I'm sexy, and believing it. Not a cockiness, but the idea that I'm worked on my mind, I've worked on my body, I've worked on my aura, my soul, my speech. And I think that I'm a very attractive human. I think I'm very sexy. When I hear that from other people, I don't disregard it. I believe it. And that comes with being like, well, now I've missed 8 years or more of positive sexual experiences because I hated myself, and now I want to explore what that looks like. And so I'm coming back into my phase of wanting to do quote unquote hookups or have sexual experiences outside of my relationship, which is where the openness piece comes into play, but also being very content in knowing that I'm not looking for any emotional stability or anything committed because I'm very happy in the relationship that I'm in. And so how do I balance that? How do I balance that idea of exploring and having hookups and being like, okay, well, that's one and done. Like, thanks for that. While still having that bottom line connection. Most of the people that I'm friends with, I would have sexual experiences with. Why? Because they're beautiful people on the inside and out. And I think that's something that I really connect with. There are so many of my female, male, non-binary, trans friends that I'm not saying that I'm trying to go after them and fuck them, but what I'm saying is that there's a sense of safety, a sense of connection. I know you're not a terrible human, and I don't have to explain my situation. Unlike hooking up with a younger 22-year-old that then interviews me about Jessica. That's the other thing. That's the other complication. As I've progressed in my age, my career has progressed. And so I don't want sexual experiences in my city. If I'm going to choose to go outside of my relationship, I want them in other parts of the country because I don't know those people, and I'm not worried about that being used as a Jessica or drag queen thing. Sometimes the out of drag piece gets ignored, and when that comes into play, it feels really rewarding. But it also comes with the caveats of constantly having to explain things if it's local, if it's out of state. Like, hookups are very weird. Even the idea of cruising. The idea of cruising I really like because of the anonymousness piece behind it. Like, if there's a glory hole, which I've never explored, that's a hookup to me. You're hooking up with somebody, but you don't know anything about them. There's both this like sexual appeal to the idea that it's so taboo and wild and you don't know who this person is and it's anonymous. And also this, what the fuck? This is some random dick or random pussy. I have no idea who this person is. I don't know anything about them. Like, and I'm just going to walk away and act like nothing happened. Make that make sense to me. But if I was like, I'm using this glory hole example for a thing, but let's say like it was my boyfriend or like a friend of mine, be like, oh, hey, like that was real fun, wasn't it? Like, I don't know, is that weird? I think that might be weird to other people. Such a weird balance of it's always situational, it's always dependent on the person, it's what we're doing, like what level of hookup or sexual satisfaction is it? Is there an emotional connection? Because I'm not looking for anything emotionally connected based. I'm past that. I've grown past that. I also, like I said, know what I want. And I'm not willing to like bottom for every motherfucker in the world anymore like I used to. Like if I'm bottoming for my boyfriend or somebody very specific. Just as much as like I don't want to like swallow a load from someone random. I would like to know whose load I'm swallowing. It's very, very specific and meticulous to me. And there is, like I said, sexual power is something that I'm determined to gain back and learn how to comfortably and confidently exude this sexual power that I had in my early 20s and do it in a different light, in a different aura now that I'm older and a little bit more experienced. Hookups are it's such a strange conversation, but I'm definitely pro-sex, pro-hookup, pro-do what you want with your body, be safe, be consensual about it, have conversations, don't read too much into it. I'm an overthinker, and so sometimes I'm put into positions where people will make advances on me, but I overthink the situation, and I'm very much a try to live in the moment kind of person. If this opportunity is brought to me, instead of overthinking the situation, think in that moment, is this what I want to do? And if I don't want to, that's your answer. But if I hyperanalyze it, then I don't enjoy it. I'm not invested in that moment. Sometimes it's just getting off and going. Period. Sometimes sex is just sex. And I'm learning that as I get older, that sometimes it's not as serious as I'd like to make it out to be. And I'm not going to look like this forever. I'm not going to have this sex drive forever. I'm not going to have this body forever. I'm not going to be able to be erect like this forever. I'm sure there'll be a time when I'm 80 years old and I have to use pills and shit like that. There's going to be times where your body changes. And we said this on an episode with about taking nudes. Moira Rose says it too. Like, take 1,000 nudes of yourself now. Do it. Love exploring now, because there's going to be a time where this isn't an option. And it's not that serious. But I'm not dead. People say 30 is the gay death, and I feel like I'm finally thriving. I'm determined to have this very full-on, clear-cut confidence in my sexual power that doesn't come with jealousy, because I'm not a jealous person, And I'm learning that when you're in a relationship and you're balancing sexual power, some pieces of jealousy do come into play, but that's where communication is effective. That is my opinion on hookups. Tell me down below some of your best and worst hookup experiences if you're 18 and plus. And also, again, I want to remind you to use the resources around you to reclaim your sexual power in the most consensual, healthy, happy, and active way to the best of the ability and the wants and desires that you would like to have it. Ultimately, have fun. And that's what I've got to say about this. Until next time, bye everybody. Go get fucked.
I'm an attention whore. Can't help it, bitch. I'm an attention whore.